Ethan Brooks adjusted the sleeves of his only navy blue suit as he stood outside the Grand Harbor Hotel in downtown Seattle. At 34, he had become used to feeling out of place in luxurious settings. By day, he repaired elevators across the city, and by night, he devoted every spare moment to raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, after losing his wife 3 years earlier. His best friend Jake had practically dragged him to the charity gala, insisting it would be good for him to socialize again. Ethan doubted that anything important could happen at a formal event filled with wealthy strangers and business executives. Inside the grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers reflected golden light across polished marble floors while soft jazz floated through the crowded room. Guests laughed confidently as servers carried trays of sparkling drinks, passed expensive designer dresses and tailored suits. Ethan quietly accepted a glass of water instead of champagne and searched for the least crowded corner. That was when he noticed a beautiful woman standing alone near the balcony doors. She wore a stunning emerald green evening gown, yet her nervous expression contrasted sharply with the elegance surrounding her. Every few seconds, she checked her phone before glancing anxiously toward the ballroom entrance, clearly waiting for someone who never seemed to arrive. Before Ethan could look away, a sharply dressed man confidently approached the woman with several investors following behind him. His voice carried across the room as he mocked her, asking whether her mysterious boyfriend had lost the courage to show up. The woman forced a polite smile, but Ethan could see the embarrassment in her eyes. Acting entirely on impulse, he walked over and casually said, "If you want, I'll pretend to be your boyfriend for a few minutes." She blinked in surprise before unexpectedly smiling. Leaning closer, she quietly replied, "We'll need practice. No one will buy it." Ethan laughed, thinking she was joking, until she gently took his hand. She introduced herself as Claire Morgan, a successful architect visiting Seattle from Boston to secure a massive redevelopment contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Her wealthy ex-fiancé, Daniel Carter, had spread rumors that she was still hopelessly in love with him and planned to humiliate her during tonight's event. Claire explained everything quickly as they stepped onto the quiet balcony overlooking the Seattle skyline. Together, they invented believable details about their imaginary relationship, practicing how they met at a neighborhood coffee shop, what movies they supposedly loved, and even how they held hands. With every passing minute, pretending became strangely comfortable instead of awkward. When they returned to the ballroom, Daniel confidently approached with investors, expecting Claire to stand alone exactly as he had predicted. Instead, she smiled warmly and introduced Ethan as her one-two boyfriend. Ethan matched her confidence perfectly, sharing light-hearted stories about imaginary weekend adventures. That made everyone laugh, including Claire herself. Daniel's smile slowly disappeared as the investors admired their natural chemistry. Just then, Ethan's phone rang with a bedtime video call from little Lily. Claire greeted the cheerful 8-year-old kindly, and Lily innocently smiled before saying, "Dad, your friend looks really nice." Claire's heart quietly melted, and suddenly their fake relationship no longer felt completely imaginary. 2-2. As the investors drifted toward the dining hall, Daniel refused to accept defeat. He stepped in front of Ethan and Claire, with a confident smile that barely hid his frustration. "If you're really dating," he said, "tell us something only a real couple would know." Claire felt panic rising, but Ethan gently squeezed her hand. Without hesitation, he smiled and described how Claire always stirred her coffee twice before taking the first sip, and how she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear whenever she became nervous. Claire froze in surprise because he had noticed both habits during their short conversation. The room fell completely silent. The atmosphere changed as the investors began asking Ethan about his life. Instead of Daniel's business stories, Ethan spoke honestly about raising his daughter alone, working long days repairing elevators, and teaching Lily that kindness mattered more than money. His quiet confidence impressed everyone far more than expensive suits or polished speeches. Claire watched him with growing admiration, realizing he never tried to appear important. He simply treated every person with respect. Daniel's attempts to interrupt only made him appear insecure, while Ethan's sincerity earned genuine smiles. By the end of dinner, Several investors openly congratulated Claire on finding such an extraordinary partner. Later that evening, Claire and Ethan stepped outside beneath the glowing city lights overlooking Elliott Bay. They both laughed with relief now that the performance was finally over. Claire thanked him for saving her from public humiliation and admitted she had not laughed that sincerely in years. Ethan smiled and confessed that he had almost skipped the gala because he felt he never belonged in places like this. Claire looked directly into his eyes and quietly admitted that the happiest part of her evening had nothing to do with proving Daniel wrong. It had been meeting a man whose kindness felt completely genuine and effortless. The following weekend, Claire accepted Ethan's invitation to visit a neighborhood park where Lily loved feeding ducks. There were no expensive dresses, luxury hotels, or wealthy investors, only sunshine, picnic sandwiches, and endless laughter. Lily instantly adored Claire, and the three of them spent hours playing together, like they had known each other for years. Watching Ethan with his daughter showed Claire the kind of man he truly was. She realized that his greatest achievement was not his career, but the loving father he had become. For Ethan, seeing Lily smile beside Claire awakened hope he thought had disappeared forever after losing his wife. 6 months later, the same Grand Harbor Hotel hosted another charity gala. This time, Ethan and Claire arrived hand in hand, not because anyone needed convincing, but because they had genuinely fallen in love. Daniel watched from across the ballroom, unable to believe the relationship he once mocked had become one too real. During the evening, Ethan surprised Claire by getting down on one knee and asking her to marry him while Lily proudly held the engagement ring. Through happy tears, Claire said yes as the room erupted into applause. What had started as one playful joke became the beginning of a beautiful family, proving that sometimes the most unexpected promises become the truest love stories. 2-2.